Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again for another exciting episode we've got for you today. As usual, sitting here with me, ready and raring to go, is Sandy McKay. How are you?
Hey, Rob, doing great.
How was Christmas?
Christmas whole season was fun. Lots of stuff with family, hanging out. Didn't go anywhere, not going anywhere, just hanging out and having a bit of a staycation and enjoying some snow. Got lots of snow.
Yes, so I hear.
Yeah, exactly.
My sister sent me a picture of a snowman that they built in the front yard, and then the next day you can only see the hat.
That would make sense.
From all the snow that fell.
Well, don't you miss it?
No, I'm good. I'm good. My kids complain every once in a while, but they, I don't feel sorry for them. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
No, they're good down there. A beautiful sun. I can see it behind you there. I'm sure you're doing okay.
Yeah. We had a good Christmas too. We just stayed here. We didn't do any traveling at all, and I got a drone for Christmas, so that's pretty cool. I've been messing around with that, and it is super fun. It's a lot of fun, and I've got a couple listings down here right now. So I'm going to go over and get some footage of fly over the beach and then land in the yard or something like that. It'll be pretty cool. So that's been fun.
Sweet. Well, my one drone experience so far is two. I got one good 5-minute video, and then the next time I crashed it in an island in the Philippines. It was one of those.
Water.
No, in the mount, those things that come out of they're like, what are they? They're like limestone and something. They're like those. They look beautiful on photos. They're all those little mini islands and stuff that spear out from the ocean and stuff. And there's a bunch crashed into one of those 100 feet in the air. And yeah.
Did you recover it or no?
No, it's probably still sitting there. Yeah.
Well, I guess you had no way to get to it.
So no way, no. So
because the one that I have is a GPS, tells you exactly where it is, right?
Oh yeah, I knew where mine was too. Just nobody was getting that. Nobody was getting that thing.
Well, maybe somebody got it. It's not you.
Someone's probably climbed up those things before. Someone will find it, but it's super fun and great. You can get some amazing footage.
Yeah, so definitely. I was bugging my kids. I was following them around. They were riding their bikes, so I was following them around. It was annoying them, but really fun for me.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows. Go to our website, breakthroughreipodcast.ca. There you can listen to all the episodes that we've done over the last 9 years now, Sandy. 9 years.
9 years.
And they can get in touch with the guests because all of the show notes are there, and also ways to contact the guests. So if you hear some really interesting information from somebody, you want to get in touch with them, that's the way to do it. And they can also get our free gift.
Yeah, they can get the gift, the ultimate strategy for building wealth through real estate. And when you sign up for that, you not only get the gift, but you find out about everything else we got going on, including webinars, property tours, seminars, whatever we got going on week to week or month to month. You'll find it as being part of our community and being part of our list there.
Right. They call it a free gift, but really you got to give us your email, and then you go on our email list, right? See?
That's pretty much how it works.
Tell us a little bit about the free gift. What is it? What are they getting?
So the gift is a very kind of brief and straightforward way of how you can supercharge your investment journey by a little bit of raising money elements to it. There's a little bit of BRRRR strategy, which we've talked about many times on the show: buy, renovate, refinance, and rent and repeat. And so it's a way to invest in real estate for starters, but also kind of supercharge that and invest and recycle your money over and over so you can get the best, what you would call it, ROI, I guess, return on investment, but also return on time. And
yeah, very cool. And I know most of the people that are listening to this are for the most part newbies, I think, into the investing world. So that's a really great way for them to learn a lot in a little bit of reading. So go over there and sign up for that, and go over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review if you haven't done that. It helps us get out there. It helps us get guests. It helps us hear more about what you guys want, right? Because without those reviews, we don't know. Maybe we're doing something, or maybe we're overlooking something. Let us know. And you can do that over on iTunes.
Absolutely. And let us know, because we want to know what we haven't talked about, what we should be talking about. There's so many topics out there in our space, and we're always looking for new, interesting topics as the industry evolves and the economy evolves and the real estate market evolves. There's always different things to chat about. We've got a fairly new topic, I think, today, actually, that's going to be interesting.
Yes, we do. Well, without further ado, let's bring in our guest.
Let's roll into it. Okay. Got here with us today, Myron Welik, straight out of Montreal. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. 9 years is my hat's off to you. That's a miracle in the podcast world. You can appreciate, baby. Talk about resilience and consistency. That's phenomenal. Okay. Utmost respect and happy holidays to you and your family, guys.
It's funny to look back on that. And thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's funny to look back on that though. And I mean, we learned with the podcast, right? Like almost everything that we know, and we've had the privilege of having people like you on,
right,
and learning from them, you know, a couple times a month for the last 9 years. So I feel like it's been just as much for us as everybody else listening.
Definitely. And you know, we're gonna learn a lot. I know perseverance is one of the words Myron likes to talk about here. So we're gonna chat about that a bit today, probably. And I know we've had our versions of persevering through those 9 years. It's been fun. Not an easy ride all along the way, but certainly learned a lot and grown through it. Want to intro Myron here with a little brief bio, and then
Sure.
Myron, you can add to it if you like. But you are someone who is known as the Jackhammer. So we'll learn a little bit more about what that means today. But you've been in the business of making deals for 40 plus years. You're the host of the Jackhammer podcast and author of the Jackhammer Effect, which I believe people can pick up on Amazon.
Correct.
And you've been involved in many different types of deals, brokered many deals, names of Heidi, Klum, New Balance, FIFA, Madison Square Gardens, Lacoste, New England Patriots, Radio City Music Hall, and more.
Right.
And more recently, you've also endeavored into real estate, and we're going to talk a lot about that. In 2018, you met a young entrepreneur that you were impressed with, and you relentlessly pursued him, wanted to work with him. 6 months later, you ended up partnering and doing some deals together. And 2.5 years later, you've brokered over $35 million worth of investment deals in real estate, and more. So we're going to talk a lot about that and why you're called the Jackhammer. You're 69, going on 39, and I know you love to work with entrepreneurs or investors that are in that 50 plus category and how they can, you know, gain more energy, more success, and more enjoyment out of life at that age. So looking forward to learn more about this. Thanks for being here. And anything you want to add to that?
Well, absolutely. One of the key things, you got to be hungry, enough for food. Okay. So, you know, after 16, 17 years of kind of being down and out, losing a business and being down and out, the only reason why I'm still here talking to you guys is for some reason I didn't give up. You know, so I think my badass superpower is that I just don't give up. Being a jackhammer, as we all know from the construction, but it's a good metaphor for life, is that when a lot of other things can't get through, it keeps going until it gets the job done. And it just never gives up. That's the whole point of the machine, literally. So after about like you mentioned, Sandy, I had no experience in real estate. Unfortunately, I came to real estate very late in my life. You guys know better than me. Real estate, I've learned, is a very long-term game. All my investors are in their 30s and 40s. They have another 30, 40 years growing their portfolios. And meeting this gentleman, I think this young guy, 30, 33, he needed financing. It spoke to one of my skills, for example. He was building his business, multiplexes in Montreal, off-market. He had already started, but he needed to grow. And I helped him find over $10 million in financing over a year or 2 years. And then one day I went to see a property with him that he had found off-market, and he was renovating. And I said to him, which I normally do when I see an opportunity, I said to him, Joe, what if I find for you? Can I find off-market? He says, Myron, what do you know? I said, I don't know. Tell me how to do this. And I really had no experience, of course. He told me what he did. He told me how he did it. But his company was growing. So the timing, because timing is everything in life, personal and professional. I'm really learning that the hard way. And he said, well, sure, if you could help us find off-market properties, great. We came to an arrangement. And I'll never forget one thing he said as a very smart guy. I was really at a very low point in my life, guys. And I said to him, and I said, so give me a job, pay me X amount, and let me work for you. And he turned to me and he looked, he said, Myron, you're 67, 68, which I was then. You don't want a job. I have a gut feeling about you. You don't want to work for me because you're going to be limited. I think you can go as far as your skills and your drive is going to take you. Go out there, as scary as it is. And it was one of the best advices. He was 33, 34, but one of the wisest advices he gave me. Scared as hell. After 16 years of really floundering because hitting rock bottom, I found him 1, 2, 3 properties. And then I expanded over the 2 years to where I am now, over 45 investors focusing on greater area of Montreal, Ottawa, the surrounding secondary cities and multiplexes and industrial warehousing. But one of the biggest things I think I've done in the latter part of 22, as the interest rates, everything exploded, is I've made numerous affiliations, I call it, not formal partnerships with agents, with people, professional people, who with investors, where we work together, sharing the remuneration in finding either off-market properties or investors. This has really expanded radically my network. So, if anybody listening, one of the big things I could suggest is, 100. It's a cliche, but it's true. 100% of zero is zero. So, if you could find similar people where you both bring the value to the opportunity, like anything, personal or professional, that's a tremendous win, and it just radically increases your opportunity as I'm doing right now.
Right, exactly. It's a I guess I'll put it this way: a lack of a scarcity mindset. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I kind of I never believed anybody was impossible to connect to. I don't. And if I don't connect to them, like I reached out to you guys, then I move on to someone else. There's always more. So I start with that. Number 2, the skills that I need in real estate, being, as they call, a bird dog or a consultant, whatever you want to call it, are skills I've always had. Perseverance, tenacity. I mean, I just got to, as soon as he gave me kind of like a brief agenda, the initial investor, I got on the phone like a bull in a china shop. I called all kinds of mortgage investors, notaries, accountants, lawyers, anybody I could think of who would know investors or know properties and agents. I started to build the list. And you know what? You'd be shocked. From the Claridges of the world, these big, the Bronfman REITs of the world, down, I connected with a lot of people, believe it or not. And you may say, who am I to have connected? But again, it's a cliche, but it's very true. I've lived it. If you don't ask, you will never, never, never get. Ask. Go out there. Try. Doesn't work. Try again. Try someone else. Sooner or later, if you're out there, something good is going to happen. Absolutely. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Trust me.
So let's talk about a little bit. Let's take it from where you were mentioning that you started with like 2 or 3 deals for this guy. So right. What did you do? How did you go about doing that? Let's, dig into a little bit. You're starting from nothing, right? And so what did you do?
From zero. So one of the things and he told me a little bit, but he's a busy guy. If I couldn't figure out the kind of thing, then what do I need you for, type of thing. He didn't say it, but that's what he would say. So I'm going to give you a little bit of direction, Myron, and the rest, you're 67, 68. You've kind of been an entrepreneur all your life, which I have. Figure it out. You're resourceful, which he was right. So what I did is, one of the things is every week I reach out to agents in Montreal looking for, who list it, but I speak to them about if they have off market, because, the great thing about real estate, I love anyways, because I'm not afraid of the risk, is you don't make anything until you make a deal. Other than that, you could starve until you make a deal. But when you make a deal, sometimes it's a lot more than the average person ever makes in a year or 2 years. So you really have, agents are like a gigantic sales force. You're all working toward the same thing. Everybody wants to make a deal. I came up with I created my own kind of formula and documents whereby my investors remunerate me. So the agent, all he or she does is make money if we successfully make a deal. So I reached out, right now I have several thousand agents on my Rolodex, over a couple of years, and it's increasing all the time. Looking or being in touch or being connected as often as I can, if and when they ever have an off-market property. I reach out to professional people. I reach out to mortgage. I reach out to as many different people as I can who I think may have access or knowledge of an off-market property or a new investor. I went, another big deal, which I could share with your audience, I constantly always went to networking. That's why I met the initial investor. I went out there. As bad as I was mentally and physically, and especially mentally, guys, and I was really bad. I was very bad. I couldn't even get out of bed at times. And at 60 something years old, I still went to these events. And by going to these events, I was kind of like rejuvenated. Everybody's in their 30s, number one. They're not in their 60s, 30s, or 40s, right? Or 20s even, young entrepreneurs, not in real estate. The weird thing that happened to me, and maybe somebody was watching me finally after so many years, I had this entrepreneurial angel that this gentleman I met, who, like I said to you, was in real estate, came to this event. He really had no business being there. No more you guys wouldn't have come because it was not a real estate event. It was just a general entrepreneurial. And we started to talk. So I continue to do all that. And that's basically the thrust of my initiatives. And diversifying in terms of properties and opportunities, affiliations, that kind of thing.
So is it 100% necessary for it to be off market, and why?
In my area, it does, because investors, my market dominating position, the power of what I do is most of them, they don't have a time to look 24/7 for off market. On market, they can find it as easily as you or anybody else can. I don't have the same value. My value becomes off market to them an opportunity, not necessarily a deal, but a great opportunity. Obviously, if they buy it, it's a deal for them. So they look to me for off market. But what they know is that I'm a royal pain in the ass, but a good pain in the ass. They love that. And I keep feeding them. And I've also believe in something else called a volume game. It's a numbers thing. My best investor, who I've done over 10 million with, that was on three or four deals, correct. That was after 100 properties sent to him, or 70. I mean, not exaggerating. It was a lot of things that he just passed on. Of course, we're not a fit. But I have to keep going, right? You just got to keep going.
So how do you identify whether something is a deal or not?
What I do is I have every time I meet an investor, I get their criteria. We send out an investor criteria. We look on specifics, for example, what the cap rates are, for example, price per doors, location, amenities. We look at the revenue versus expenses, what they're looking for, which, of course, like you say, your business and podcast has evolved dramatically since, 2018 or 2019, correct? Because of interest rates and inflation in Montreal, just like anywhere else. And basically, I decide the criteria based on the feedback from my investors, which generally there's a consensus. Generally, they generally don't flip my profile, with few exceptions. They buy and hold, and they look to optimize generally and keep it over a long term. That's generally. There's different profiles, as we all know, and there's no right or wrong. There's different types of investors, but generally the 30s, early 40s investors who's building his or her career or reach that I have generally look to optimize, whether it's 6 units or 100 plus units.
Okay, and you're sticking to like 6 units plus kind of thing?
Yeah, I stick to it. I go to 5 sometimes, and it could be 100, 200 units. But I also have to emphasize this relationships. I make it my business as much as possible to have coffee and meet with all my investors. And it's really a human thing. I mean, they like it. We talk. We go back and forth. I don't just reach out to them, whether it's emails, I send them updates, or phone calls. I want to know what's going on, what their thoughts are, because as we all know, it's changing, especially now. It's more radically changing than ever. So it's a fluid, ongoing situation. You just can't go to sleep after you make a deal or reach out to someone after you make a deal. I mean, I have testimonials from investors that I have not made a deal yet, but they know the passion I bring to it, the sincerity I bring to it, the transparency I bring to it. So I think that's radically important. And that's why they're all, generally speaking, if I call, they'll answer me or take my call or get back to me because they know why I'm calling. I'm only calling for one.
You told us a little bit of your story, but let's go back. Like, tell us. I mean, Sandy brought up some interesting stuff in the bio, but like, tell us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial career from the beginning.
I'd love to. Thank you for asking. So before I got real estate, in 2000, one of the things I'm pretty proud of was working for somebody who had the license for Heidi Klum. We all, I guess people know who Heidi Klum is, America Got Talent then, but this was 2010, 11, 12. And at that time, the Lululemons of the world were really growing that whole, what's called athleisure business. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. And that was kind of exploding. And many different people were, companies, businesses were starting to imitate it because it was successful, as they should. And the person I worked with, like I said, had the license. At that time, Heidi was still married to Seal, and she was pregnant with her last kid and just finished her maternity. And they made maternity, and they were all saying to each other, well, what do we do now? Okay, like they had the right, maternity's over. What do we do now? So I said to the person I worked with, I said, he had the rights to Heidi Klum worldwide. And I said to, I don't know, ask Heidi. He had the direct connection. He could speak to her, not me. And he said, I said, well, maybe we could partner with, do like an athlete leisure with Heidi. She was notable even then. A very successful model and entrepreneurial woman, a brilliant lady, very brilliant lady, very sharp lady, and utmost respect for her. And he said, what do you have in mind, Myron? I said, well, maybe we could partner with an athletic company, like a Nike or whatever, something like that. He says, okay, so do some research, Myron, and tell me what you want to do. So I did. And I thought after my research, guys, I even Nike then was $30 billion. Adidas was 40. I mean, it was like numbers that are insane for someone like me. I was talking to God, the financial God, and they're a public company. I could never talk to them. I would know that. I don't waste my time. But in looking and researching, I saw the New Balance company, which we all know, was very low key. Okay, they were only, and I'm not gonna, and I say this most sincerely, 2.5 to 3 billion. For most of us in the world listening, 2.5 to 3 billion, I would think it's not a bad volume every year, okay, in business. But compared to the Nike and Adidas, they were shrimps. They were the local corner store. And they were very low key, but they always made a great running shoe that people knew. But they never sponsored athletes. They were a private company still, and their women's wear sucked. It was terrible. And I think they knew that. If you looked at it then, not now, but if you looked at it then, it was really bad. Okay, it was like back to 1910. It was ridiculous. Okay. So I said, tell Heidi, maybe we'll reach out to New Balance. What does she think? Because we needed her permission to reach out. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. And he did. And he asked her, and she loved the idea. And she asked him, well, who does Myron know at New Balance? Which is a correct question. Okay. And he said, nobody. She said, what do you mean nobody? I mean, what do you mean nobody? It's New Balance for that. What do you mean nobody? How the hell is he ever going to get to New Balance? I mean, I love it. He said, leave it with him. Just leave it. Let him be. Because he knew me. The guy I worked for. He knew me at that point. So anyways, after months and months and months, I did connect with somebody. It was not easy. Their world headquarters in Boston, Mass. Okay. And I did connect with them. The fact that they're not public, it was still a boys group and all that. And we made the contact. I knew that Heidi Klum was a powerful. I knew they needed it. Okay, if they were hopefully smart enough. If the biggest challenge was not that there wasn't needs. The biggest challenge was making the connection to identify most of the time. So even then, she was a great way of skyrocketing their female business. Okay, great way. Well known and great influence. And she would love to have a running shoe after her. I mean, very big deal. So a year later, we made the deal. And then the other thing what happened is Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Gardens. I was working for, believe it or not, a tourist app in New York City a couple of years ago only, found me on Kijiji or somewhere. I forget how we found each other, brought me on board and said, I need to create more strategic partnerships. That's the other thing besides real estate I'm extremely good at. And what can you do for us? They were based in Manhattan, only in Manhattan. And I did this out of Montreal, right? I don't live in New York, never been there, but I know New York well. It's no secret who Radio City and Madison Square Gardens are. And this was a young entrepreneur. And so I reached out to them and I made the partnerships. I mean, the reason they made the partnerships is not because it necessarily was so lucrative. What I played on really is I realized that this was a new, young, New York-based, generally travel app, tourist app, and they needed some help. And these were big, Madison Square Gardens or Radio City. These were all, and they agreed to partner. And Madame Tussaud's Wax Museum, these are big New York. So they agreed to partner. I created those partnerships. And the other thing was New England Patriots. What happened there is during the pandemic, actually in 21, guys, I connected with somebody in LA who was doing PR work for Seal, Heidi's husband, a former husband. What a weird situation, 8 years after, but exactly what happened. And he could not do live shows, right? He had 20, I think it was 21 still. He couldn't do live. And I asked her, the lady, who is he like? And being from England, believe it or not, he loved football and he loved the New England Patriots because they're called the New England Patriots. And he's from England. It was very weird, but he's very knowledgeable. And I said to him, okay, he'd love to do it, virtually or whatever. He loves football, loves New England's most favorite team. So what I did is I reached out after many, many calls. I found the right PR people in Boston and New England. I connected with them on their mobile because nobody was in an office, of course. And they got back to me and they loved the idea of Seal. I mean, it's unbelievable. We arranged the Zoom. He was extremely knowledgeable about football. I mean, more than I could ever be. Great Zoom. At the end of the day, he didn't do it because quite frankly, the money wasn't right for him. Okay, it wasn't enough for him. Bottom line, he didn't feel so. But it just unfortunately. But he was an extremely engaging, knowledgeable, sharp individual, and the remuneration just wasn't appropriate for him. But just okay. It happens. But I made a great connection for New England Patriots. Those are a couple of things that I've done.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's funny. Some interesting stories there. I love hearing the different entrepreneurial journey stories that we go through that are when you look back on them, sometimes crazy, exciting, sometimes a little exciting people, but the deal doesn't come together. I mean, but like you said, just kind of keep persisting through it.
Did you ever feel like during the time? Sorry, Sandy, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to ask this question. Did you ever feel like? And I've felt this way many times, even during real estate coming up and especially starting out in wholesaling and whatnot. Like, did you ever feel like, how is this my place? How do, like, what gives me the right to try and do this kind of stuff?
I feel that every day, all the time, every day. Yeah. The only difference is, and anybody listening, I can tell you, that's okay to feel that way. That's healthy. It's normal. What's not okay is not to keep going. Because what I've also learned, even from a silly thing like, I'm going to bring it down to its smallest little denominator, like spinning and exercise I do. I even being on this podcast, I've never been, not too many anyways. And I said, and I before I meet you guys, I choke up with a lot of anxiety because I just do. That's who I am. But when I come on, hopefully, as you can see, I love it because it's really where I belong. So when I'm talking to Seal, or when I get into the conversation, or not Heidi, or New Balance people, or the real estate people, it's like I'm alive. You know what I mean? It's like I come alive. It's kind of like trying to get over this emotional and mental threshold or fence. This kind of this invisible fence that just keeping you away. But that's really, I think for anybody listening, it's really summarizes almost everything we want to do or not want to do, and separates those who do it or not. It's about like I love this expression called shyness costs you money. You can't be shy. Unless you're an accountant. No disrespect to accountants. I love accountants, but I don't know if they, unless they're going to do a TED Talk. But generally, if you want to do anything, you go out there. I've learned the hard way. The worst that can happen, it doesn't work. It's not going to kill you. It's not a medical issue, thank God. then you keep going, because whatever you try, there's many different ways to get it done. But for sure, it's a cliche again, but it's true. If you don't try, nothing ever is going to. The only reason I'm talking to you again is I kept going out. But I feel that every day, like you said, every day.
Well, it's a very thin line too between, like, a lot of times between doing something and not doing it. It's like it's sort of right there, right? And all you got to do is just teeter one way or the other.
It's so true. I have to like psychologically and mentally. I walk around, I build myself up, I hold my dog. I have to do a whole kind of like song and dance to myself to get up enough nerve, and then I go in mood. I drink my coffee, I feel better, and then I feel unstoppable. And there's sometimes I feel I'm not going to even call my brother. I just don't even feel like up to it. And no disrespect to him, it's because of me. But you're absolutely right. But I'm only happiest at best when I take that chance, when I keep going.
How do you now, in a real estate, putting on a real estate investor's hat, how do you, if you're someone who's listening maybe and they're saying to themselves, well, you can't be shy, and they have that thought in their head, well, they go, well, I am shy, I've been shy my whole life, or I'm 30 years old and I feel like I'm a shy person or more reserved. What are some, like, what would be a tip or a strategy you'd share with them to get them out there more? Because and I know they need to get out there more if they want to make stuff happen. How do they, what's an actionable item around doing that in a point, week to week or month to month sort of a scenario?
I would say, I would tell people, what do you want to do? Number one, let's say it's real estate in this case, what do you want to call? Look at the mirror. What do you want to do? List 3 things that you want to do, or 2 things that you want to do. What do you need to do them? One of the things that I think is a safer way of transitioning to where you want to go is find like-minded, find people that are doing what you want to do. Okay, reach out there, meet with them, connect with them, and make it a goal. Specifically, I would say to anybody, anybody listening, make it a goal that you're going to reach out to people or organizations that are doing what you want to do or where you want to be, and then make a connection, online or offline. It doesn't matter. I don't give a damn where you do it. You can do it anywhere in the world. You can do it in person, and then go one step further. Make a meeting with them, because when you push yourself, sometimes you become your biggest enemy and your biggest friend. So when you push yourself, you're able to realize that you didn't die. It's not over right now. And then you take small steps. The key is small steps. List the steps, 1, 2, and then check it off. Check off the box. I think get very dazzled by or distracted by is the big goal. So
right.
How am I going to make the 200 or 300 grand a year, or or do this? It's just, where do I start? Like people say, where the hell do I start? I mean, so I would break it down to small steps, like so many smarter, wiser people have said before me, and then check it off. Step 1 leads to step 2, step 3. What you're going to find is that it creates movement and momentum towards the commitment, which is very, very critical. And as you check it off, if you're checking it off and you're honest with yourself, not if you're BSing yourself, you're going to get stronger as time goes on, and you're going to have more choices. And it's like driving where you don't know where necessarily you're going. The answers will become clearer as you get further down the road. And
right. Yeah, we've used that metaphor a ton of times on this show, I think, right? It's like driving somewhere, and when you hit the red light, okay, now you figure out what to do next, and it'll turn green, and then you can go to the next one.
Yeah,
right? It's a good way to put it.
Where we break down and get crazy, myself especially. I mean, I've only learned. Unfortunately, with me, I learned first things last. Like, I'm going to be 70 next year, guys, and I wish I met you and talked to you when I'm in my 30s or 40s. I'd be that much stronger and richer and smarter, but I didn't. It is what it is right now with me, and I keep emphasizing, if I could come back from what I did after being so down and out, and my age, I mean, then there's no excuse. As long as you want it, anybody can. If you don't, my only answer is you don't want it bad enough. There's no question. Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. You're wasting my time, and you're wasting your own time.
Well, only because we love to talk about overcoming challenges. Because you've mentioned it a couple times, right? Being really down at a certain point. So tell us, like, how, like, why that happened and how you got out of it.
Well, I lost, good. So I lost a business in 2002. One of my secret weapons, and it's going to sound very dramatic and cliche, but I'm going to have to share it, is called love. It's as simple as that. I'm fortunate to have a woman married to a lady that's put up with me for 35 years. So and especially when times get extremely challenging, it comes in handy. Okay, that somebody gives a damn, and two phenomenal kids. I can never underestimate that. So I think if you can have, whether it's love or a friend or family, if you have somebody who really gives a damn whether you live or die and there to help you, that's also helpful, extremely helpful. Putting that aside, just something in me that I kept going. Okay, in spite of feeling so low and hitting rock bottom, I always somehow felt, even subconsciously, that there would be, I would get another chance, I'd get another opportunity. And I guess the only takeaway that I can suggest to anybody listening is keep going. Get out there, meet people that are doing what you want to do, network, and keep going. And because you never know what's going to happen. Don't stay home. Don't, or don't not go online, for example. Don't lock yourself up. Don't become your own prisoner. That was I think my biggest, despite all the trials and tribulations and the roller coaster ride, guys, that I felt, that I lived with, I think that was the biggest asset I had. I never gave up, being a jackhammer.
What is a jackhammer?
Well, a jackhammer is just someone who keeps going when there's sometimes no reason to keep going. Who really believes there's an opportunity around the corner, even though he doesn't know what it is. It doesn't matter.
Why do people, when they're, why do people in their, you talk about the 50+ crowd. Why do you think people in that demographic have specific challenges around that? And how have you done it, or how do you recommend others kind of keep going and regain energy in that stage of life?
What I've learned, I think number one, women are a lot better at this than men in terms of 50+. My experience in terms of sometimes, I think resilience, they're a hell of a lot better. Okay, in terms of living with the world the way it is, as people get older, a hell of a lot better. Like, they leave men in the dust, in my opinion, generally. I mean, my wife or others or women entrepreneurs. I think, it gets to a certain point, 50+, as you know, where people start to have to make decisions. Eventually, do I kind of wind it down? Do I semi-retire? Do I retire? Whatever. I can't speak to those who retire and semi-retire, because personally, I'm never going to retire. Okay, if I had 100 million, I would. I just love doing things and being things, and being involved in things and creating things. And I think I have a lot that to do still. So I'm not slowing down anytime soon. But and for the others who also want to be entrepreneurial, I could say that I think that 50+, one of the biggest challenges sometimes is health. The narrowing of years that you have to build whatever you're trying to build. So I'd really look at what you're trying to do. I'd look at the kind of financial investment or risk, because you don't have probably many opportunities left to come back. Unlike somebody in their 20s or 30s who can, lose it all. It's not the end of the world. They may think it is the end of the world. I know that. I don't blame them, but it's not. And they have time to come back. You become cognizant of time before you don't, as you should. And I think you have to approach things, I think, any age. But anyway, particularly 50+ or 60 with a sense of urgency. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something bad enough, and there are many 50, 60, and 70 entrepreneurs who have this dream, him or her, of some business, just go and do it. And if you look at Google, how many people are 50+ doing it? Martha Stewart started her business 50+. The Home Depot person started it in his late 50s. Ray Kroc was in his 50s with McDonald's, okay? I mean, I can go on and on. There's some very famous people, the late 40s guys, 50s, who started their empire that today we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Kentucky Fried Chicken, I know it sounds, I think it was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, that's true.
Buzz. He was in his 60s. So, and they're not necessarily isolated. There are many people out there who maybe not as iconic, as famous as we know, who are starting all kinds of things, and it's growing by leaps and bounds.
But I think the important thing too for everyone to remember is like that's not their first idea, and not the first thing they ever did, right? They were trying other things before, and it got them to that point.
Absolutely.
It built their mind in such a way to have the idea of doing those things, right?
Absolutely.
And then speaking of that, where do you see your business going now in the future?
I see that in real estate, I need to scale it. One of the things that I hope, which I've not done any, I've been, which I don't want to be a kind of a secret. Like I found my which is the last thing in the world I want to be, right? And you can hear me. I'm not shy. I've found my investors and my property really organically, like back in the 80s, before the computers came, before internet came, before social media came. And that's okay, but it's not enough. So I hope to leverage, guys, more social media, the Jackhammer brand. Okay, hope to be out there more in Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever is appropriate. Because I think I have things to say, and I think I have people I can help, make an impact. And so I hope to leverage that. I hope to increase my investors exponentially. I also am working on better, more sophisticated ways to find off-market properties. It's a never-ending pursuit. Expand my geographical network in terms of cities that I'm doing what I'm doing. And who knows? And maybe people who want to learn how to do what I do, they have to have a little bit of a jackhammer in you. But the rest, I can help. There's no question. Create these satellite jackhammers everywhere. So there's a lot of opportunity, because when people work with me and talk to me, if they didn't see me, they would think I'm 20 something or 30 something.
Exactly.
I mean, they would. I mean, they just, they're all saying that blows their mind. I mean, and they say why at 70 almost are you so? And I said, it's not just because of the financial needs and all the other needs, which are some, but even if I had, when I do, I just love the idea of creating and entrepreneurial. And that's why I guess people in their 30s and 40s, people in the earlier stages of their career professionally, I gravitate to, because they're only looking to go on. Okay, they're only looking to build. Whereas people, understandably, in the latter stages, 60, 70, 80, generally, there's exceptions, many, are looking to wind down. I mean, I have this expression, 65 going on 35. And or 55 going on 35, however it may be. So I think mentally for me, it's much healthier to be as many people in their 30s and 40s as I can. And by definition, I am, because my real estate, my strategic, because the people older are not generally into it. And that's a godsend. Even family and friends, I limit it, because if you listen to them, understandably, they want to wind down, they want to go to Florida. It's not I can't do that. I can't think that way.
Well, we're definitely rooting for you. We love the energy and want to thank you for coming on again today.
Oh, I love it. And anybody, I want anybody listening to write down the 3 things that they wanted, that they need, that they want to do with themselves. And then they break it down step by step, take 1 step, 2 steps, and they can email me if they want. I'd love to hear their success, because they're going to be successful. There's no question. The secret is to keep going. If after 16 years of being down and out on pills and all this crap, I could do it. Don't tell me, but don't tell yourself. Don't cheat yourself.
Well, I think that's like the most important lesson too is, I mean, again, it's like eating the elephant, right?
Right.
How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. But the key to, like, it's like knowing where to bite it, I guess, first. Right. So you gotta get really clear on the smaller goals, and that are going to lead to the bigger one, and then take the step. Right.
Because you're overwhelmed. In 9 years, you guys had trials and tribulations. You have ups and downs. You have differences of opinions as partners or like that. It's normal, just like we do personally and professionally. You got to be bigger and overcome it. Okay. But I learned the hard way. I know now, not too late. could I be getting a second chance, is to break it down to its smallest component. What really? Because it's the only way. Otherwise, it's overwhelming. You're never going to start.
Mm.
That's great advice coming into the new year here too. This will be one of our newer episodes in 2023, so I think that's a great starting point for people too, is to start with that and kind of start with the end in mind too, and just look at those baby steps along the way. That's one of the reasons most people miss out on their resolutions, right? They kind of give up because they don't see themselves losing that 20 pounds in the first 2 weeks. They go, it's too big of a hurdle.
Yeah.
I started to exercise 2-3 years ago. It's another thing, physically. And I really didn't do a lot of it. Not that I had a weight issue, but I needed to do that. You can appreciate that. Everybody needs to do that, but especially get older. And the biggest challenge, even now, oh my God, I say it's not the most fun thing in the world sometimes to do. I do spinning. I'm the oldest person. Everybody is like 20-something-year-old girl, and I'm the only one 69. And they all look at it. They love it. But the key is the consistency, because I know how I feel, fortunately now, after I've done the spinning or the biking or the workout. So I push myself to it. It's still not my favorite thing to do. I can tell you a million things I'd rather do. Talking to you guys is a lot more enjoyable than doing any spinning. That's for sure.
Well, how can people get in touch with you? You mentioned your email.
Yeah, you can put my email, Myron Welik 23@gmail.com in the footnotes. I think that's a good way. I'll be on LinkedIn. But my link I'll send you. Like you say, I have my book, The Jackhammer Effect: How to Break Down Doors and Make Business Deals Happen for Those Who Believe They Can. But the biggest thing is, guys, don't sell yourself short. Tell anybody listening, don't cheat yourself. And whether you're 22, 25, don't think what I'm saying is for 60 plus, because whether you like it or believe it or not, the time is going to eat away at you very fast. It's your best friend or your best enemy. In a snap, it goes. Don't waste it.
Well, very important advice. Thank you, Myron, for being on today.
Thank you.
Well, you've got your podcast too. What's the podcast? But I was going to say, man, you sound like you could talk for another hour.
Yeah. Well, big surprise, right? The podcast is called The Jackhammer Effect. And basically, it was interviewing entrepreneurs or anybody, not necessarily in business. I call an entrepreneur anybody who's starting something. It could be an organization, nonprofit, business. And going forward, we're gonna not coincidentally, I'm going to try to focus more on 50 plus entrepreneurs. As much as possible, people starting. There are a lot of 50 plus people who ran a business for 20, 30 and are still running it. That's very, very common. But what really gets me excited, which is harder to find, but still multiple people who are starting at 48, 49, and 50, and then building it. I mean, that takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it does, I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not in that age group yet. It's hard to say though, with the amount of time people have in life these days. I think, and that getting a bit longer for health reasons and science and all that. I think there's lots of reasons to really look at 50 and being like, well, I'm maybe halfway through. I mean, there's still so much time there. You're either going to enjoy it and do great things, or you're going to fizzle away and do kind of nothing, right? I mean, what's the alternative?
Absolutely. And the other thing that's been very important, I have to share with you before I forget, because I always forget. I was very late at it, but I have a mentor and a coach. And I think that's very, very valuable. But the challenges and the problem is with all that, and I know it because I've lived it, guys, is that a lot of the coaches and mentors, quite frankly, are not inexpensive. They can tell you all the platitudes they want. Invest in yourself. It's not what it costs. But the bottom line is, when you have to juggle paying rent, buying food. I know, I've been there. It's all bullshit. I've lived all that. Don't tell me all that, okay? Because and you don't know if it's the right person, so I pay you $1,000, $2,000. That's all garbage. Don't tell me that, okay? I was lucky and maybe fortunate. Thank God that I met this gentleman. I'm going to say his name, Joe Fournier. He's been phenomenal. He's made it very reasonable. I met him through another business that we worked on, that the person needed funding. It didn't work. The person's out of Salt Lake City. He's an extraordinary guy. And he's my mentor and coach for the last 6, 8, 9 months. And it's been reasonable. It's been fair. It's been invaluable for me. So I would recommend anybody, not necessarily even a coach, just a mentor, somebody that you could talk to, that you respect, that could give you information, advice, that really gives a damn, and not just looking at the bottom line. It's incredibly important. If you have some extra bucks, then any kind of coach. The problem with that is you got to find the right fit, or the challenge with that. Maybe it's a better way of putting it. It's not so easy, but you're spending money while you're child. So people can tell you whatever they want to tell you. The biggest thing also, do what's good for you. Okay, there are too many platitudes around out there. It's easy to talk if you're in a certain position or coach. It's too many bullshit platitudes. I hate all that crap. Do what's good for you, because ultimately you know best, whoever's listening, what's good or not good for you. Don't let anybody ever tell you differently.
I agree. I love that advice too, because there's many naysayers in this area, right, of real estate.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Sandy, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, best way is through social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or they can always reach me through email, sandy@freedomreps.com.
And people can reach me at rob@mrbreakthrough.ca. And I do want to leave everybody with that word of advice from Myron, and that is, like, be a jackhammer and always stay with it. See you next time.